Hey everyone, in this final video, I'm going to be finishing up the sign-in form for our email and username. So we started here in Adobe XD, and now we are over here in Storyline 360. So to make all of this work together, what I've done is I've used some JavaScript from another person's file, and I used it in a different sign-in form before, so I'm just going to reuse that. And so one of the things that I just realized that I did that I should have done differently this time is I have this enter your email, and it should be enter your username, because we want to ask for the username before we ask for the email. Or we can say create a username. So we're going to have them create one. So let's go down here, and I'm just going to change this text entry field to be username. Make sure that's good. Cool. So another thing I want to do is change the variable to be something more relatable for this. So we'll just change it to be username. And I want to double check on my tab order for accessibility. And we want to change this to be enter, create a username. And then we don't want these scrolling panels to show up when their screen reader reads these, so we're going to go ahead and delete those out. And then I'll save. All right, great. So now we're ready to get started on adding in those little dots at the bottom that indicate where we're at. And I created those in After Effects, and then I exported them out and then brought them into Photoshop as a animated GIF. So let's go back here and see what those look like. I'm gonna go zoom in. So we can see these here, these little things. So I'm gonna have the animation go, and then it's gonna pause and stop on that little arrow. So we'll go to picture, and we'll see XAPI sign-in form. And when I'm thinking about this animation, actually, what I probably want it to do is for both of them to be circular dot, non-filled in dots. So what we'll do is we'll come down here, and we'll have to put those back into one of the scrolling panels. We'll come down here and we'll change the shape fill to no fill. We'll do the outline as 4, because I think that's what we had the other one be. And then we'll change this to that color, and we'll probably make these a little bit smaller, so maybe about 20. Let's see what 20 looks like. And maybe we'll adjust that then later, we'll see. So let's put these in the center here, and then let's get them closer to the bottom. We'll have 2 of these. So that, and then I'll paste it. And I haven't done this before, this piece, so this is brand new to me, trying to make sure that this works and looks right. So let's go ahead and group these together. Let's make sure they're aligned, group, and then I want to put those in the center here. Awesome. And now that we have those grouped in the middle, we want to kind of figure out how they're going to function. So the second one, definitely we don't want to be filled in because it's not going to be filled in yet. And for this first one, I think that we possibly want it to be filled in, but it's something you want to play around with and kind of think through. And I didn't necessarily test this out in my design. So what I'm going to do is I have these arrows already created. So if I come up here to, let's look at the white background one. So this is what the arrow looks like. It's an arrow, and then it turns into a check mark. So we want that action to be actually happening when the person submits something and it's correct. So let's go ahead and let's see if we can put this just static arrow in for the picture. And I have this arrow still. And so one of the things that I didn't do with the animated one was I did not change it to be, ooh, where did it go? It's all the way up here. And we probably want it to be a bit bigger than that, obviously. It's got some space around it. I did not change the background on it to be transparent on one of them, so we'll have to see what's gonna work best. Let's go to 80. So we wanna get this roughly the same size. Definitely maybe 100. Let's test this out. That looks about right. So we'll do 100 for this. And let's go ahead and get rid of, or at least hide this other oval for now. So now when we look at this, we'll see this, this action happening. The other thing that we want to have on here that we're going to want to hide is an indicator to enter a username. So we'll say, please enter, and this is if a person doesn't enter a username. Please enter a username. And we'll do this one in Adobe Garamond. And we'll make this smaller. And initially what we want to do is we want to have this hidden. And we don't need it to be in any of these scrolling panels here. So what we'll do is bring this up. And see, this is where we run into an issue of space. So this is why you want to design your first screen before you go duplicating things, because you want things to be how you would like them. So what I'm going to do is change the height of this, and I'm going to change it to about 60. And then let's see if I can put this at the bottom of this here, just move everything up. And because I've changed this to 60, what I also want to do is change this submit button to 60 as well, because this button here, I want it to reflect the other one. So I'm going to change the height on this to 60. And I'll probably move this down a little bit. And then what we want to do with that, please enter a user, or please enter a username. We want to grab that red color that we're using over here somewhere, just so that, go ahead and add it here, just so that that's reflected over here too. And the state on this, we're going to keep initially to hidden, and then we're going to toggle it on if the person doesn't enter a username, so if the field is blank. I'm going to go to home, I'm going to go to more colors, and I don't necessarily, I think I said in my design video, like this color, but it really does stand out, so that's a positive. And I don't think I can select both of these at once, can I? No. But I like this text field being a little more, a little thinner. It gives more space for us to play with and look at. So the other thing we may want to do with this is, since we've moved this, this text field to be thinner, we may want to move this so it looks a little bit better. It's not a big deal because obviously this stuff's not flying in from the side, so not a huge deal here. Okay. The other thing that you'll notice now too is we put the ovals in here, and the ovals are not inside of the scroll panel, so we do need to put those inside the scroll panel. So for now, I'm just going to turn this scroll panel off. And I'm going to get rid of the first oval. Actually, I can bring another one in if I need to. I'm going to grab these. This is oval 2, so we could just say oval 1 here. And let's see. Let's get these little guys into here. And we're going to put the animation fly on them too when we get them in. So let's go ahead and see if we can get them in here. Okay. Please be in the right space. Ovals. Okay, yay. Our ovals are situated. Okay, let's put this fly in on them at 50 because I think that's what we had the other ones be. Now let's go ahead and preview this. Let's turn this back on first. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee here. Yay, already, there we go. So in the next part, what we're gonna do is we're going to make this function here. So what we wanna do is we wanna go ahead and have the please enter a username come up if the field is blank. So let's go ahead and say when the user clicks submit, let's change the state of this. Where is this? Please enter username. Oh, we got to go and change that because this is text box 1. Change this to state normal when user clicks the submit button. Where's our submit button? Okay, so we want to change the state of this text box to normal when the user clicks the submit button, only if the text entry field is blank. So if username is equal to value, and then if you leave the value blank, it will just be blank. So let's go ahead and put that. So you can see here, it doesn't say in the actual drop down there, but you can see that that will happen on there. And something we could do is we could have this just have like a fade. I don't know if that will look good, but we could do that. So let's just change this to please enter a username. And now if we click submit, we can see that please enter a username is in there. Otherwise, whatever's going to be put in there is going to set that username equal to the typed value when the control loses focus. So that will be then stored in that variable that we created called username. Yay! Okay, so that's great. So this is our first screen, and this is set up. So now for our second screen, what we want to do when they do click submit is it's going to go to a new screen, but we want to have some kind of like little transition in there so that we can see like the little animation going, and then the new one will get the next arrow over here. So let's go ahead, and what we'll do is we're going to duplicate this screen, but actually, okay, first once again, because we did add some new stuff, let's get rid of these ovals on here because we don't need those ovals. And then we do want someone to see the please enter a username. So this is a curious thing here, because I don't think that the way that Storyline, I could be wrong, but I don't think that the way that Storyline functions is if this is hidden, will the screen reader read it? So it's not a huge deal because it's not a huge part of our project. We can come back and edit this later, but for the sake of like, let's pretend it actually works. It may actually work, I don't know. We'll put this below the username field. So if the person doesn't enter a username, or actually let's put this below the submit field. So if the person clicks submit and they don't enter a username, then this will read that, the screen reader will read this and be like, please enter a username. So the order is important for screen readers because you want it to make sense. And while we can see the screen, Some of us are able to see this order of these things, and it makes sense if you can see everything at once. But it may be nice to have this happen right after the submit button in case someone does need a screen reader so that they know right away what they need to do versus like, okay, now what happened? And now they got started all over at the beginning. So just nice to think about the order and how people are going to be interacting with things because we want to make sure everyone's able to have a great experience. So now with that, let's go ahead and duplicate this screen. So we've got our screen all ready to go, and this is what saves so much time is you're not going to have to go back and forth tweaking things unless we see that we need to for some reason. So I'm going to duplicate this. Oh, accidentally copied that. So we're going to go copy, and I'm going to paste this in. I guess I could just duplicate, actually. So let's just duplicate. Let's get rid of this ghost text field. Okay, so we'll call this one, and always name your stuff right too. That's important. So let's just call this one username, and then let's call this one email. And for this, what we want to show is this little like animation going for this button here. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this selected layer really quickly, and we probably want to change this out. So I'm going to go to change picture, and then here's where my dilemma is, because sometimes when you use transparent animated GIFs, a little like pink outline goes around things and it looks bizarre, but we'll try this out and see what happens. So let's change that out. So now that's changed out. So we want that animation to happen on this when the timeline starts. So maybe I'll get rid of, oh, remind me tomorrow. Maybe I'll get rid of everything on here except for that one thing. So what I want to do is I want to have this change to an arrow, but I don't want it to change immediately. So I'll leave that there. I'll have this, and then we'll probably close the screen out when the timeline ends. And what we'll have to do is go through all these things, and so let's get rid of the hi there. Let's get rid of all this because we don't care about that right now. The other thing that we want to do is we want to take off all the animations because, you know, the screen's already up. We don't need to have everything be like flying in. Maybe we'll change these so that these are a little bit different, but let's not worry about that quite yet. Let's see here. Let's come into here. We want to change all of these to be different. Okay, let's see. So we'll take the animations off. And then the create a username will become enter your email, maybe email address. Cool. And we could get a little more intricate with this and have like the username field fly back out, but just for time's sake, we'll just keep it like this. And so what we want to do is we're going to also want to change these little guys here to be what we actually want them to be. So now what's going to happen is I want to come in here. I'm all over the place with this, so I'm sorry if no one's like necessarily following along too well, but basically with this and where we're at is it's going to be a lot of back and forth because I'm just going with the flow over here. Now I want to make this one go over with this other one here. So I'm going to go all the way over here. And then this one, bring it to the front, this oval. And I'm going to, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to inch this. over to here, because what's going to happen here is on our XD mockup, we have this be completely filled in. So I'm going to go to Format, and then I'm going to shape fill this, and I'm going to fill this with the same color that it is. And that's going to be filled in. So that will be that. And then we'll get rid of this arrow down here. We'll call this oval 1, because now this is oval 1. And then this one will remain as the still, because we want it to be still until you get to the next screen, or like the end of this screen, and then everything kind of, you know, animates out. And so then you see it change, animate out with everything. And then I'm going to change this to please enter a valid email. Cool. Save this. Always good to save. And then what I want to do is this new username field. I don't know why there's another one here. This new username field is not a username field, it's email. We could just say user email for consistency. How about that? Cool. And then that will happen if the username is equal to blank. But actually we're going to change this in the future because we want it to be a valid email. All right. So let's, the first thing we want to have happen is when the timeline starts, we want to show that email copy layer because we want that animation to happen. So let's see. Let's find that. So show layer, email copy when the timeline starts on object email. We'll probably change this to like, I don't even know. What's like a name for this? Dot animation. That's not the best, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so let's go over here and we want to have this go to this. So now we will also say jump to slide, email, when user clicks, submit, if username is not equal to value blank. All right, so let's play this whole thing here. And we are definitely gonna have to adjust things to the second one, but we'll see what happens. And so if I submit this, enter username, we definitely want to move that text field down. It looks like it's like kind of floating there. Submit. And then you can see here, oh, and another thing I just noticed with my animation here is I have it forever looping, which is not great. But we can fix that even without it changing it to just loop one time. We can just have the timeline end immediately. So you can see this. Let's replay the whole thing. Let's enter something. And those fly in. We don't want them to fly in either. So let's go back over here. So what we want to do is grab these and say, we do not want any kind of animation on them. And then, and maybe you do want an animation, I don't know. It's really up to you. Let's make these pretty short. And then what we want to do on this layer is say hide layer when the timeline ends. And there's all kinds of ways you can do stuff like this on dots animation. It's just a lot of testing, a lot of back and forth. Okay. So you can see that was super fast. Let's replay, redo. Okay, so we want that to be a little longer. So this should be a little bit longer. Maybe we do make it a second. I think it was maybe around a 2-second animation. Something else we're gonna do is let's just come back here and change this text entry field to be a little bit lower. So let's lower this. Let's go to like 415-ish. And then we're gonna do the same thing over here with our other field. Obviously want those to match, and that 415 y-axis. I'm going to go to save, just to be safe. Now let's try it again and see what happens. Yep, that's pretty good. And you can see, I don't know about this because when you have it slide in, it goes, and we maybe want there to be like a little exit animation, and then possibly have these come in, because what's happening is there's just no breaking point for these. There's just, let's see if we can change these things. So we have the oval and the arrow, and maybe we have them up here, and just, I'm so cautious, I don't know, maybe we can have them fade in and see what happens there. And then we maybe want to have these fade out or shrink. I don't know, it's a lot of playing around with, really, to be honest. So let's see what happens with this. Oh, that looks not great. And I think it's mostly these dots exit. Let's try none. Redo again. But we're getting closer and closer to the end. Replay. It's the thing that gets me here is there's just it's just so so out of nowhere. It's just like the transition isn't good between the two. So let's move these out a little more. And then I'm wondering if I did something a little more fast with these. Let's try 25. See what happens. See, it's getting there. It's like a little slightly better. I think it's the right one that's concerning to me because there's still this kind of gap. So let's move these in another point. Let's see what happens now. And I probably don't even need to go through this whole thing. Could probably just be on the next screen. So that's getting a little bit better. It's just a little abrupt is what's kind of irking me. And I'm wondering if there's a good way around this. So let's move these in once more. Let's try this. Let's replay. think, and maybe we just take the animations off because I feel like maybe the animations are just not doing it justice, or that might be way too abrupt not even having them. So let's see what happens. Do this slide again. I think that these need to at least go a little longer, so let's move this in. There's just a lot of back and forth. And then I think, once again, now I gotta move these out a little bit more because they're overlapping still. It's like the combination of things overlapping in not a like nice flowy way and then ending too abruptly. It's like too much of the one or the other. This is better, I think. Now, do we want this? Let's move up a little. I feel like things are not as even as they could be, but I guess it is what it is. All right, so I do kind of wish these had some kind of like really, really subtle animation in. But I don't know what would be the best thing. Can I do 10? Let's try that. It doesn't really look cohesive to me. It looks like it's jumping. So if I look at this one and then I look at this one, it feels a little off. It does. But I guess this is all right for now. I can always come back and play with this later. So now what we want to do is when the person clicks the submit, and let's go here. When the person clicks the submit button, we want to check to make sure that it's a valid email. And if it is, then we can kind of animate everything out and then send them on to the actual project.